First thing first, have you ever been punched in the face?
You're one version of you when you're training, you're another version of you when you're sparring and you're actually getting hit, and then you're another version of you on the day when you're fueled with extra adrenaline and you're in that fight or flight zone. And
Well, I guess your real life leaks into your boxing that you're also aggressive because you found me and you like hit me up and like, hey, you want to do the podcast? And here we are.
all of the traits that kind of had made up who I thought I was, which all got kind of torn down once I stepped in the boxing ring and learned that underneath that, which was a lot of it was utter bullshit. So you can stand outside the ring and go, I'm this, I'm that, I'm braver, whatever story you want to tell yourself. The reality is when that punch is thrown at you, you react, and you will either react by retreating or by the idea of standing in front of an opponent, a predator, an opponent, the honesty that opponent was there to hurt me and that there was no facade of pretending it was any different like there was when I was a child. Like, here's a person, when I was distracted with this sport, and so I was going in and I developed consistency, I developed dedication, I developed a relationship with discomfort, I developed trust in myself despite the inner critic that was telling me that I wasn't good enough. I was proving it by just physically.
You keep going.
I think there were a lot of levels to it, but I think that, on a really basic level, knowing where I'd come from and where I was, I knew that anyone could do it. Like, anyone could walk in the door and choose to learn that and get a great result, because the stuff that mattered wasn't skill. The stuff that mattered wasn't talent. The stuff that mattered was dedication and tenacity. And I think the ever-present challenge is finding that balance between kicking your own ass and having self-love and compassion. So where is the line between...
I think what makes people happy is that you have to be uncomfortable for a long time for you to appreciate yourself. Hello, welcome to my podcast, Two Mics, One Joey Suits. I am Joey Suits, and I'll be giving a mic to Tiffanee Cook. She's my first guest all the way from Australia. I think I have to shout because she can't hear me. She is a life coach, motivator, and a boxing badass. Also a fellow podcaster. How are you today?
I'm very good, Joey. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I love your accent. Remind me of Steve Irwin.
He's a good egg. I don't mind that. I don't mind being likened to him.
Yeah, we were just talking about how I'm surprised there's not like a statue, a gold statue of Steve Irwin yet in Australia. He's like beloved by everyone.
He definitely is. Worldwide. What a guy.
Like it takes a very special person to be beloved by everyone across all 7 continents, and for the 7 continents, right, or 8?
Yes.
7, right, or 8?
7. It's 7?
Oh man, I don't want to look dumb here.
I think we're both looking dumb now.
Here, I'll do Siri. Hey Siri, how many continents are there?
I found Europe, Africa, North America, Antarctica, Asia.
Okay, 7.
Do you want to hear the remaining 2?
All right, 7. Okay. Okay.
Glad we cleared that up.
So you have a quote and you say, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, said by Mike Tyson, said by Michael Scott. First thing first, have you ever been punched in the face?
Many, many times, Joey. Many times.
Really?
I decided at 29 years old that it'd be a good idea to throw myself in the boxing ring. As you do, with no idea how to box.
It's a regular Monday morning.
Pretty much. And fair to say there was more than one occasion where those punches landed on my face, more often than not.
But then how do you react? How did it feel like the first time you got punched in the face?
You know what? So it was a 12-week boxing challenge. So it was 0 to hero on a white collar event. So I'd never boxed before. I'd done a little bit of boxing, kind of fit box at the gym. And we went into this 12-week training camp, training 3 days a week, and then we'd be fighting at a big black tie event, televised, all the bells and whistles, professional boxing fight at the end of it. And before the fight, we only sparred, I think, 2 or 3 times. So we were quite a way through the training before we even got punched in the face. And I didn't feel very good at it. I didn't feel good at the whole thing. I felt, it was going into a space like that, you are coming up against yourself in the rawest manner ever. The inner critic, the lack of self-confidence, the I'm so shit at this every single time I step into that gym. And then, so by the time we stepped in for our first bout of sparring and actually getting hit, I'd pretty much ascertained that I was likely to be the worst person in that training camp. Yet, when I hopped out of my first rounds of sparring, one of the trainers came over and he said, "Is that the first time you've sparred?" And I said, "Yep." And he goes, that was pretty good.
Okay.
I found that what's interesting about boxing is you're one version of you when you're training, you're another version of you when you're sparring and you're actually getting hit, and then you're another version of you on the day when you're fueled with extra adrenaline and you're in that fight or flight zone and you're getting punched in the face. So and you can never tell what someone's going to be like based on what they're like in one. We look at the people that were great in training, and then you put them in for sparring, and they're not great, and then you put them in a fight, and they fight completely different. It's so incredible, and man, I learned a lot about myself.
Wait, so there's now like a day where it's like everyone gonna get punched in the face today.
Just go do it. Go do it.
So you actually did get punched in the face, like actually like in a fight, like you don't even have time to react, like you're already like if you like stop, like you get punched more.
Yeah, actually it's funny. In my very first fight, I remember they're 2-minute rounds, 3 rounds. And I remember going in and I was throwing all these punches, and within 20 seconds, obviously with this adrenaline in my system, I remember clear as a bell thinking, this is not sustainable. This is hard. We're 20 seconds in and this is hard. Like I feel like I'm done already. And I thought I can't keep up this pace. I need to throw less punches because I'm a bit of a bull at a gate. I'm like all in, pushing the fight, pushing the pace. And I thought I'm going to have to chill out because I can't do 3 rounds of this. I'll work on defense defense wasn't and still isn't my strong point. So my greatest defense was my offense. And the minute I stopped throwing punches, I started wearing them. And so it was like, dunk, dunk, okay, back to plan A.
You kind of I don't know if you ever watched UFC, but you remind me of the style of Conor McGregor.
But slightly less cocky. Just slightly.
Yeah, but his whole stance is that he goes like 100% in the pain ring, whatever, like right away.
Yeah.
And then after like the second or third round, you can totally tell he's gassed out.
Yeah.
So like, but like, do you ever? I don't really know boxing at all, and I'm kind of just based on other people's opinions. But like, you remember? Did you watch the Money Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight?
Oh, I didn't watch it. I don't which is a bit to disappoint you, but for a boxer, I don't watch a lot of the boxing myself. I was a bit more of a do it, don't watch it type athlete.
Oh. That's funny because I'm not into boxing at all, but it's just like he got a lot of publicity. I just want to, like, what Conor, like, I don't even know like what popular in Australia, like. I guess Conor McGregor, so he's cocky, and I just wanted to see how he would do in the ring and stuff. So like a lot of like experts would say like Money Mayweather is like one of the most maybe the best boxers to ever exist, because like I think what makes him so good is that he doesn't get any punching thrown at him.
Yeah.
Like he's so quick, and like Like he can have a fight and then go out to party. Like, that's insane. Like he's very good at dodging and stuff, and like everyone's like, oh, he's boring because he didn't get hit and stuff. But that's his whole thing. That's why he's like 50-0 because he just doesn't, he tires them out and then just throw quick little punches and that's it. Like he doesn't.
Yeah.
He has a very different style. So like so it seems like you're an aggressor type of person.
Definitely an aggressor.
Yeah, and I guess it kind of I guess your real life leaks into your boxing that you're also aggressive because you found me and you like hit me up and like, hey, you want to do the podcast? And here we are.
Yes, it does span. It does span outside of the boxing ring as well. I learned so much about me as a person and who I was and why I was the way I was and all of the traits that kind of had made up who I thought I was, which all got kind of torn down once I stepped in the boxing ring and learned that underneath that, which was a lot of it was utter bullshit, underneath all of that, it was just a completely different reality.
Yeah, I mean, I never did boxing, never been in a high energy sport like that, but I feel like when you go to the gym and I guess boxing that you enter a whole different mode of yourself. Like you don't even like you're not even thinking of anything else. You're just thinking of like the weights. Like just like you can explain more, but so I talked about in your previous podcast that I watched CrossFit just because I don't know why. Like I would never even become even close to being the strongest person on the planet. But is it cool to see them? I think exercise in a great mindset because I think you just get busy. So you get so busy with lifting weights that you don't even think about anything else. So it must be amazing to be in a ring and you're just not even like, do you even think about anything? Like, are you thinking of like, I want to have cookies tonight.
Well, I'm always thinking that, Joey. But what I loved most about boxing is the you that exists beyond the conscious mind, beyond the stories you tell yourself. So when you're in a ring and someone throws a punch at you, you will react instinctively before you can think about it. So you can stand outside the ring and go, I'm this, I'm that, I'm brave, whatever story you want to tell yourself. The reality is when that punch is thrown at you, you react, and you will either react by retreating or by aggressing. And I would notice, how do I react? How do I react when I'm under pressure? How do I react when I feel a certain way? And so there's a lot of psychology that in that environment you see that is different to how you think it might really be, because we tell stories about ourselves. Like for 29 years, I was 29 when I first stepped into the ring and did that boxing challenge. For 29 years, I had told myself the story that I was strong and independent and resilient and I had the answers and all of these traits that were positive. And after a couple of years of being in the boxing ring, I started realizing, underneath this strength and independence and resilience, I started asking myself, is that correct? Or am I really terrified of abandonment and connection and vulnerability? And when I asked myself that question and I knew the answer straight away, like that was terrifying. And it was like, oh, I've just been telling myself a story the whole time. This is not real.
Yeah, we're going to be connecting the dots right now. So I did an interview with Tiffanee Cook. So you should definitely watch that after this episode. But I was mentioning before in her podcast that everyone should have a traumatic moment in their lives or have a very challenging task ahead of them. So I guess your version of challenging is that you threw yourself in the boxing ring and you kind of discover yourself who you were in the ring, because if you didn't have that experience, like who knows when the next experience, or even if you don't have that hardship, you would never really know who your true self is because you're never tested beyond your limit. Because everyone likes to be comfortable with their lives and they don't want anything harder for them. Like life itself is very difficult, even for a regular person, just just, dealing with family, dealing with your job, dealing with society as a whole. That's really stressful for a lot of people. It kind of never ends. You're working, you got to pay bill, and then you die. And like, it's difficult. And then like there's these crazy people like Tiffanee that go, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, I want to go into the ring and get punched in the face tonight. Like, and then like you did it, and then now like you like. So I know you are. Well, first I want to talk about how much of a badass you are. So I'm gonna list all your accomplishments right now, so the audience can understand. So we have here. So we have a 2014 57-kilogram novice Victorian amateur champion, 2015 54 kilograms novice Victorian amateur champion again. So 2 years in a row. And then 2019, you were 57-kilogram featherweight VABL Victorian champion. So that's pretty badass that you were, I'm guessing, the best of your weight class.
Yeah. So and in between those two times, I had a 3-year break from competing. So I started coaching, and I also sustained an injury. So I kind of got busy doing both of those things. And what was interesting is couple of years into boxing, and I started asking those deep questions about who am I, what's this all about, and I started having emotional breakdowns, and I started remembering childhood memories that I had stuffed away in a little black box in the darkest corner of my mind, and kind of told myself didn't happen. So, and they started randomly popping up into my mind. And so it was a really interesting time where I'm doing something new with my body. I'm asking myself questions about who I am. And then I'm thinking of experiences that happened in childhood that I hadn't acknowledged for 20 years. And so and for me, that was childhood sexual abuse, which went on for quite a few years and shaped all of these personality traits. So that's where I started going, what's this identity of strength and independence? And then I started looking at what are the traits that adults exhibit when they've been through that experience as a child. And a lot of these traits start marrying up. And I was like, oh, right. And what is it about the boxing ring? Because I was never someone that I had athletic ability as a child, but I never had consistency in anything. I was never a you can learn anything and do it. I was, if I'm good at it, I'll do it. So I've come across this sport that is terrifying, that I'm not great at. And yet I kept pushing myself into that environment, and then I kept getting a great result from it. But I was going, this is a really uncomfortable environment, but something is pulling me into it. Something is resonating and makes me want to be here to see myself. And I did a lot of writing around and journaling around the time that all this stuff kind of all just collided together, and it was realizing the things that resonated in that environment. For example, the idea of standing in front of an opponent, a predator, an opponent, and the honesty that opponent was there to hurt me, and that there was no facade of pretending it was any different like there was when I was a child. Like, here's a person, they're going to hurt me. And then the idea that outside of that ring, where no one can help me, but there was this visibility that everybody could actually now see this is what's happening. So then I had this chance to be seen as looking after myself and being strong. So there was all this little stuff. And it was like, oh, the beginning of a lifelong journey. I was going to try and put a time frame on that, like it's been 10 years or whatever, but that journey is far from over. I feel like it's only just beginning.
So it seems like you're using the ring both metaphorically and physically as a battleground for yourself.
100%. And for me, I realised really quickly that this physical space, this physical realm of training and competing in sport was such a metaphor of seeing all the stuff that you can't see in a physical realm. Like you go to a gym, you pick up a weight, you put your body under stress, you put the weight down, you walk away, your body grows stronger. when I was distracted with this sport, and so I was going in and I developed consistency, I developed dedication, I developed a relationship with discomfort, I developed trust in myself despite the inner critic that was telling me that I wasn't good enough. I was proving it by just physically turning up. And then when you physically turn up and you win, then your mind goes, oh, I've been telling her she's not good enough, but she just kept going anyway and she won. And I think that messaging, that subconscious messaging, it just streams out into the rest of your life. Like after a couple of years, I looked at my me as a person, as a human, and me as a business person and in my career, and that had evolved. And I was like, well, how funny that would evolve, because I've ignored career. Like I've been so focused on boxing that I just turn up and do my job. But as a result of boxing and learning dedication and fueling my body well and developing a relationship with rest and recovery and asking introspective questions, all of a sudden I was better at my job, even though I didn't think I was focusing on my job, because I became a better human. Like it was crazy.
So what was your motivation to keep going? Because it sounds like when you were growing up, you always had the mindset like you weren't good enough and like you'll never be better. And then when you're doing the boxing, like you still had that same mindset. What made you say like, no, Brain, I'm going to keep doing this until I get X results? Like what made you keep going?
I think there were a lot of levels to it, but I think that, on a really basic level, the whole movement and fitness, one is with boxing. So with most things that I tried, you get sick of it. There's one reason to go, and there's one thing we work on, and then you can get sick of that. With boxing, you need to develop fitness, you need to develop skill, you need to develop strength, you need to develop strategy, you need to develop all the physical, the mental, the emotional. So when I would get sick of a specific thing for train, like there was always a different focus. You walk in the door and it's like, well, today I want to focus on my footwork, or today. So with my mind that always likes variety and always likes something new and something different, there was always something to work on. And I feel like that on a really practical level stopped me giving up. And then there's that whole, I was now living a life fueled on endorphins. I'd never gotten endorphins from training before. So when you get that consistency long enough to know to have to go to the gym when you're tired, to have to go to the gym when you don't want to have to go to the gym when you think you don't have time and you'd rather be at the pub with a mate, and then you go and then you feel a million times better, and then you've trained, you adapt to that and you realize, and it becomes a part of your life. So I think that, yeah, there was the physical, the dopamine, and then there was the variety, and then there was the skill, and then there was the mindset that evolved.
I did want to say a lot of people say boxing is the hardest sport to like master. So kudos for you sticking to that sport.
What I love is, and what I loved about becoming a coach was I knew who I was before, and I knew my ability before I stepped in, and yet I stepped in and I won most of my fights. I won my first fight and I won most of my fights, and I won my first amateur fight, which happened to be a state title. And knowing where I'd come from and where I was, I knew that anyone could do it. Like anyone could walk in the door and choose to learn that and get a great result, because the stuff that mattered wasn't skill. The stuff that mattered wasn't talent. The stuff that mattered was dedication and tenacity. If you wanted it bad enough, if you were willing to put in the time and the effort, if you were willing to face the hard stuff, you're going to stand in front of the mirror and own the hard stuff, then you can get the result, and that will beat all of the other things that you might think are more important.
So it seems like you had an ego going into this, and then your boxing career made your ego go even bigger. And then now, like, nothing can stop you right now.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Not even COVID.
Not even COVID. I think it really took me from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Like I said before, I didn't ever do anything that someone didn't tell me. Before I did that boxing challenge, I remember being at a fitness club doing boxing fitness classes and thinking, I was very shy. I certainly wasn't podcasting material back then. Very shy, very timid. And
I find that hard to believe, but okay.
And I've unleashed the beast now. But I remember thinking I would give anything for one of the trainers to come and pull me aside and tell me that I've got it, that I'm skilled, and I've got, because I thought you had to be told. I thought that if you've got what it takes, or someone that's an expert in the sport will tell you that you've got what it takes. In my mind, I didn't understand that the reality is that we can all just choose to learn something and do something and develop a skill, and we might start from different levels. Like I think I'm a great technical coach now. I think I can coach beginners, especially in the technique of boxing, because it wasn't something that come naturally to me. It was something I had to develop with understanding and learning to get into my body and feel the movements and understand where they're coming from. And I guess also that's a really valid point when it comes to my childhood experience. This was something that brought my mind into my body, and that was something that I'd learned the art of dissociation. So let's dissociate from my environment, which was strong in the boxing ring. You get me in a fight or flight environment, I wasn't feeling the emotions that a lot of people would in that moment. So someone comes at me, throws a punch, and it's terrifying. Not terrifying for me because I've emotionally checked out, because that's what my nervous system had learned how to do, which was awesome for the skill of boxing, not awesome for life. So I spent a lot of time now since then working on that and going, all right, well, that's cool for if you're a boxer and all you do is box, but I don't want to be a boxer. I want to be a human that has healthy emotional skills, healthy functioning, that has a healthy all-round life, not just healthy for 3 minutes in the boxing ring.
But how did boxing then make your life better? Because it seems to be the total opposite of life. Because like you say that when you're in the ring, you're not thinking emotionally. Like if you get punched in the face, you don't just go into the ball and cry in the corner. Like you keep going. To how does it translate to like real life where you do have emotion and you have to react with emotions?
It became a barometer for where I'm at. So as I did there, so in that 3 years that I didn't compete, I obviously did a lot of therapy. And when I went back to compete in 2019, my biggest question was, who am I going to be in the boxing ring? Who is Tiffanee Cook now? Because Tiffanee Cook used to be the girl who just walked up, didn't feel the punches, and kept throwing, no matter what. There was nothing you could throw at me that would stop me. And I knew that now Tiffanee Cook had done a lot of work on learning how to feel emotions. And so I remember the first session back, and I go down to the gym, and it was a gym I hadn't been at before, and there was a lot of males there, and it was, it felt like a dark, dingy place. And there was one of the pro fighters, John, and he's a southpaw that switches stance, and he hits like a freight train. The strength of this guy is ridiculous. He's not a huge guy, but his punches were strong. And everybody was hopping in for one round with John, so he was getting fresh people in, and, so I was putting... Now, I hadn't sparred for years and had only just got back into training, and I remember going in, and he hit me. He landed an uppercut that I reckon within 20 seconds that I thought, that's it, my nose, that's got to be broken. I was like that. So in a heartbeat, I'm thinking, that's my nose, it's done. But I felt like for the first time, I felt emotions. I was anxious and I didn't want to be in the ring, and I felt fear and I felt anxiety and I felt exposed, and I felt like I was literally standing naked in that ring in front of everybody watching me, and I felt for the first time like everyone can see my emotions, which people normally couldn't see. I had a very poker face approach, which I didn't even know prior to that. I didn't realize how unreadable I was in situations. Whereas this time, I'm not sure on that day if I probably was still unreadable to them, but for me, I felt exposed, and that's when I realized that the therapy is changing me. Like, that's when I know we can start to go into an environment and go, who am I and how do I respond? And
You should totally film yourself in the boxing ring.
I film myself.
Yeah, so you can see
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see how you are in the ring. Like when I'm a YouTuber and it's one thing to think like I'm doing amazing and stuff, and then like if you watch yourself the video, kind of like first like you don't think you're the same person almost, so you're kind of like watching someone else too. So like in my case, I'm like sometimes I have to sit back and be like, wow, I'm living here, and that's me right now. That's me walking weirdly, and that's me, eating the way I do and stuff, and it's like amazing. So I feel like for you, that would be the same experience. Like you watch yourself almost in awe that like, wow, that's me doing it,
Yeah.
killing it, punching people down.
Well, it's funny. Well, I remember in that 2019, so I was getting a lot more emotion and I was having more trouble. I'd also developed a more of a sense of self-care and self-love. So what was happening was I actually now was aware of not wanting to get hit. I didn't just want to land the punches. I didn't want to get hit either. But what that meant is that there was this part of my mind that when I was throwing a punch and walking forwards, there was this protective mechanism coming in. So I was having a lot more trouble, often not being able to fully commit to punches and subtly leaning back and not walking forward as much, which not great for boxing, but great for, self-care. My coach getting a girl to come to the gym that I hadn't met to come for a sparring session, and my coach is tough, like a really hard coach. And so he was like, I've got this girl coming and, I want you to smash her. Like, there's no token punches. You're in there to work, do the thing. And so I had to leave for work right after the round. So I think we did four or five rounds. And this girl, I've been sparring pro boxing males that were far better than me, and I've been doing really well at this point in time. I was like, my progress was going amazing. Get this girl to come in, there's new people in the gym, there was this new anxiety of like performance anxiety. And so as soon as we started sparring, I felt like my movements were different, and I was feeling like I wasn't moving the same, and I was feeling really gassed, all right? So that adrenaline had kind of dumped and I was feeling exhausted. And in the first round, her nose started bleeding a lot. So we got this four or five rounds. It was intense. We were both covered in her blood. There was so much blood. It was like a horror film. It was really quite revolting. Anyway, I had to have a shower and go straight away. And when I got to work, I messaged my coach, and I was really down on myself. I was like, why is it different? And I said to him, how am I going to fix this? And we exchanged a couple of messages back and forth, and then he messaged and said, girl, what is wrong with you? You just wiped the floor with her, and all you're doing is getting down on yourself. So in my perspective, I had not done a good job. I wasn't. It was that reality of not understanding. Then I watched some of the footage back, and I was like, oh, wow. Gee, I really moved. Like, oh, yeah. And it's, it's interesting, and it's a great reminder that, that served me so well. There's so many parts of these experiences that, as a podcaster, that served me well. I told you in our last podcast about that imposter syndrome and being in the middle of an episode with someone thinking, I'm terrible at this, and they think I'm an idiot and whatever. And then there's this other boxing part of my brain goes, yeah, but you always felt like that 90-something% of the time while you were boxing. Doesn't mean it's reality.
Well, I'm going to say that you are doing terrible right now.
Thanks, Coach.
You got to pump it up a little bit.
Thanks, Coach.
No, you're doing a great job here, and I'm glad to have you here. Yeah, like you said, consistency like is key, and like you just had 200 plus guests, and like you're doing something right. Like after a while, you have to like realize you're doing something right.
Mm,
Like
mm.
like to punch a girl where her nose is bleeding, and then it's all over the ring. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about the sport of boxing is, well, number one, you're only ever fighting against yourself, and
And I mean, not really. You're really fighting someone else, though.
yeah,
Like,
but results are opinions. Results in boxing are so controversial. There's always, like you got three judges, they all say different things, and then they construct this, and no one's ever happy with the win or the loss. And but then when you think, so you think about fighter A can win against fighter B, fighter B wins against fighter C. Would fighter C win against fighter A? Well, it's not an indication. Like if I beat you and you beat someone else, does that mean that that someone else, that I would beat that someone else? You know what I mean? Like it's all opinion based, and
I mean, are you willing to give all your trophies back then?
hell no.
See,
Life
so
is
there you
that
go. So you are the best, though.
way. But it never really meant that to me. Like I never felt like the best. And the funny thing is, when people mention those titles, I still go, yeah, but it doesn't mean I was the best.
I mean,
I won them on
I,
the I won them on the day, but there's, I don't know.
I mean, to me, I feel like you're the best. You beat everyone in the tournament. That's it's clear, decisive. You have a trophy and with your name on it, like this decisive. That I mean, that's it. Like, and then if you ask anyone else who won that tournament, they would say Tiffany Cook won that tournament. Later, there's no argument about it. It's clear, decisive, and that's the end.
Yeah, but I also think it was never about wanting to be better than someone else. It was, how can I improve? And the hard thing is, in order to get better, I had to train with better people, which always made me feel like I was never getting better. So
But
is
but
this,
but now it seems like now you're in a good position now because now you are the trainer and now you're at the top of your game.
yeah, but it was all, yeah, because it's always about how can I improve by 1%? What do I need to work on to get better at one thing? Like so in 2019, I had 3 fights. The second one, it was a Australian title that was organised, and I was like, seriously, I haven't fought for 3 years, and my coach is giving me a bloody Australian title, like it was ridiculous. And then on the day, I find out that the girl I'm fighting was a world champion kickboxer, and she'd had, like, I mean, in total, I can't even remember, I think maybe 14 or 15 fights I've had. She had had
Wow.
50 something. So you've got this girl with complete ring experience. Now, in my first fight in 2019, I fought a girl 10 kilos heavier, and I won. I won, but I was so disappointed, so incredibly disappointed with myself,
Why?
because of my performance, because I didn't perform the same. I didn't control my own movements and actions the same way. So I was disappointed with that. The next fight, I wanted to feel control, and I wanted to pace my energy, and and this was my first 5-round fight for this title. I lost on a split decision, and I was the happiest I'd ever been, because I went in wanting 2 things. I want to control the ring, and I want to control me. And I did those 2 things, and we did 5 rounds, and I felt like I could have done another 5. So I know that I didn't give my everything, but I know that out of the 2 things I wanted to work on, and I was so proud. And that meant more to me than taking home the belt.
So it seems that you're more concerned. You like more of the process than the actual end result. Like the
Yeah.
win doesn't matter to you. It matter how you got to the end.
Yeah, 100%. And then, like, it's been the same with my podcast. When I started that, I never planned to have a podcast. I kind of fell into it. I had an opportunity, and I was like, oh, great, I'm going to do this. But the idea was never to get numbers and an audience. And I thought maybe in a few years, when I develop some skills, that'd be a great thing. What I wanted out of it was experience in developing communication skills and connecting with a higher level network. I've always done business networking and building relationships and learning. And I saw this as an opportunity to do that on a higher level with personalities across the globe. And 8 weeks in, I get an email in my inbox from, I don't know, one of the whatever podcasting chart things saying you're number 8 on the charts in Australia.
Whoa.
And I was like, what are the charts? I didn't even know what the charts were, Joey. I didn't even know there were podcast charts. And I think that if I had have started the podcast with aspirations to have this amazing podcast that was on the charts, I don't think I ever would have achieved that. But I fell in love with the process, and I fell in love with the progress, and I fell in love with the learning and the education and the skills that was developing, and the result was secondary. So when the result is secondary, I think that the result is better.
So are you saying that you're going to retire after this episode and
Definitely not.
call it, hang up the gloves, and that's it?
Definitely
Give me the trophy?
not. No way. No way. I think I think I'm in this for the long haul. I love it. I love people.
I mean, it's addicting.
Yeah.
So addicting. It's bad for me because I have like so many episodes on my computer that I have to edit and stuff, and I keep saying more, and I'm like, stop saying yes. Like, just finish, do what you have, and then work your way up again. Well, no, I just keep saying yes, and more opportunities come, and you contact me. I couldn't say no because then you like, if I say no, and then like 6 months later, you'll be like, no, I'm not interested. I gotta take advantage of that. So like, it's like, like I say no, and then it's like some opportunity comes in my door, and I'm like, shit, I gotta do this now. And I keep going.
I love that. I love like that whole idea around opportunities and seizing opportunities when they arrive. I think even just the ability to see opportunities, because I think opportunities are always there, but I don't think we're always in a mindset or a headspace or an awareness to seize them.
I mean, in my case, like I've been on bed rest for 5 years and plus, and it's like that me would kill for an opportunity. So like any opportunity comes my way, I have to say yes, because I might not get another opportunity again. I gotta keep like when I'm in the advocacy world, and like I guess for you, we just gotta keep putting your name out there, because you could meet that one person, anything could reach you to millions of people, and you just gotta keep going. And you never really know who you're gonna be in contact with. Like I didn't think I'd be talking to someone from Australia. Like I wouldn't even know how to find you. Like
have you heard of the podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire by John Lee Dumas?
No.
So early on, I had him on the show. I can't remember how I come across him, but I had him on the show. And I didn't realise until I promoted the episode how many people knew him and followed him. But he had the first, or started the first, daily podcast speaking to entrepreneurs. I can't remember what year it was in. He's about 40. And he turns over millions of dollars. And so he's incredibly wealthy, incredibly inspiring. He's built something enormous. But when he was telling me his story, I was sitting there in awe. I was going, you just describing exactly what I've been doing. Like you started from the same place, and the only difference between someone who ends up there and someone who doesn't is their ability to just keep going. Do you have the ability to put in the work? Like I'm putting in the work. I'm doing 4 episodes a week. I've put in the work for a year and a half, and some people want the growth and success, in inverted commas, whatever that means to people. Some people want the growth, but if they knew that the hours and the focus and the dedication for a year and a half that's already taken, well, they definitely wouldn't want it. But
exactly. It takes a ton of effort to do a podcast, especially for the long haul. Like we talking about on your podcast, that we're gonna have guests that we just don't like or connect with well, and it could be really no one's problem. It's just some people get along with really well, and some you don't. And like like you're gonna have those days where you're like, should I just keep doing this anymore? Like, I don't like this guest was terrible. Like, it is like the first thing you think about is a me problem, and so it's like your ego gets shot, and you're like, should I do this more? Should I take a break a little bit? Like in my case, sometimes I interview like chronic ill people, and some of the stories are amazing. That sometimes I just have to like shut the whole world away because sometimes it really gets to me. Sometimes it touches something deep in within me that touches or is just really traumatizing. And I can't blame the person for giving me that. Human nature, but sometimes I have to just step away from a while because I guess it's kind of the same like if you're a therapist. I'm sure they hear some crazy shit and then they have to like cope with it somehow because now they're having to deal with that too in their own way. And it's like it's not natural to be I think it's not natural for someone to be have so much shit done to them and still keep going away. It's like it's weird because like for many people, so many people have gone through so much shit, but we still keep going for some strange reason. There's suicide, which is awful in itself, but like it's not as popular that I thought it, it should be because there's so many people that are just going through unimaginable situation that like, how are you alive? Even people talk to me and like, how are you like alive? How are you happy? How are you able to do all of this? And it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't really have a choice but to live. Like, there's nothing I can really do to help. And the other thing, I can't really commit suicide because I can't really like get a rope. I can't walk or anything as dark as that is. But like some people that can and they just choose to live another day. It's just amazing like what humans are pushing themselves into. And then there's some people that do it on purpose. So like, I don't know if you ever heard of David Blaine, for example.
Mm.
So he had like a stunt where he stood on a pole for I think for like a 1 or 2 days just on a pole in the middle of New York City. And it's like crazy. Or he was in a fishbowl, just had a thing to breathe underwater for 10 days. Like he went and just did that because he wanted to test his human ability. And it's just amazing what people are willing to push themselves through. And it's like for you, like you going to a boxing ring to get punched in the face. Like you don't have to do any of that. You can do the training, you can do the exercising, and then you don't have to go in the ring. You don't have to hurt yourself more. But no, you go in the ring, you get yourself punched tens of times, hundreds of times, and then after the fight, when the adrenaline wears off, I'm sure you feel like shit for a couple of days. Probably pop some ibuprofens or whatever and ice everything and then you're there next week again. You're like doing it all over again. Like who's my next opponent? It's like crazy that people continue to live.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's what's on the other side of the struggle. The day of my first fight, I remember I'd slept an hour because the night before I went to go to sleep and it kind of hit me and I went, oh, and I couldn't sleep. And I think I fell asleep at about 6 a.m. and I had the alarm go off at 7 a.m. because I had to go pick my mother up from the airport. And I remember
You picked your mom up from the airport before you got into a fight?
Yeah.
That's so like, it's so weird because like 7 a.m. I gotta pick up my mom and then like 5 p.m. I'm gonna go punch the twitch in the face.
And I remember saying, I will never, ever do anything. I will never put myself through anything like this ever again because there's nothing in the world that could be worth how I feel. I'd never felt that level of anxiety and arousal ever. And I meant it. I would never do this. And then the day just goes on, and then next minute I'm in the ring, and then next minute my arm is raised, and then next minute I'm going. The feeling on the other side of that was 10 times bigger than that negative feeling I felt earlier in the day, which was a million times bigger than any feeling I'd ever felt. So on the other side of stepping into the hard stuff, on the other side of struggle, there was incredible greatness. There was the most amazing feelings and lessons, and they change you. And it makes me like we have to embrace struggle. Like I chase struggle. I've decided that I'm not boxing anymore because I don't want to continue just getting head trauma for the sake of it. But when I made that decision, I went, well, what? I mean, I still do boxing training and I love it, and it's killing me. Not like it makes me want to spar. I want to spar. I want to test myself. But in order to let that go, what is an activity that gives me that level of, that takes me to that edge, that fear? And so I got a friend that does rock climbing, and he took me rock climbing. That was terrifying, Joey. I was clinging to a mountain with nothing but a rope and my fingers. And I was like, yep, here it is. I can find it. You know, I need to be taken to that space, because on the other side of that, there's greatness. And if I shy away from that, then I miss out. And I don't want to miss out. I've got fear of missing out syndrome.
Yeah, I want to ask you, what kind of motivator are you? Are you I didn't know I was training a bitch today kind of motivator? Or are you like what is your problem and let's work it out kind of motivator?
What was the first one?
Like, so you're training someone, you would go, I didn't know I was training a bitch today.
You know, I'm a mix between, I have a lot of fun in my training, but I play it up. So people always feel like I am a brutal taskmaster, but we have a lot of fun. So what that means is people get to push beyond their perceived limit, and I really love training with coaches that push you beyond. So my coach, like I said, he was a very hard coach, and I loved that because I loved to have this level of respect where I was kind of terrified I was terrified not to push myself to 100% because I wanted him to see that I was pushing 100%. When I did that, like, your abilities are far beyond what you think. Like, we have so much more ability than we access. And so I like to bring it in an environment where it's super fun, it's hilarious, but people feel like, oh my goodness, I train with her and she is crazy.
Yeah, that's how I like to be motivated. Like, I needed someone to call me like a little bitch, and then I'm just gonna kill it. Okay, that's like the only way that would get me like going. Like, I can't be like softly talked to, because like it doesn't like do anything to me. It's like hitting me with a pillow. Like, hit me with a boxing glove, not a pillow.
I love it. I get it. 100% get it. It's the best.
I mean, I think it kind of works all facets of life too, because sometimes, like sometimes you just gotta like tell them the truth in a way. Like, you're a bitch right now. Like, you gotta stop being a bitch and let's go. I think that would help a lot of people. They just gotta be told the truth. And like, I don't remember if I mentioned it in this podcast or the other podcast were on. It's just melting together. But I think that the big thing with acceptance, you just gotta like accept you are. So like, if you're a little bitch, like, what you gotta do to not be a little bitch anymore? And I guess if you're working out, it'll be like doing 3 more sit-ups,
Yeah.
And then you're not a little bitch anymore. It's like, okay, I can do 3 sit-ups, like, there you go.
And I think the ever-present challenge is finding that balance between kicking your own ass and having self-love and compassion. So where is the line between needing a rest and being okay, and where is the line between kick your own ass and get it done? And I think that that's where the magic happens, and I think that it's different for everybody, and people need to figure that out, because you get some people that are all about the self-care, all about but you can fall into the pity party.
Yeah.
Like, when is self-care constructive, when is resting constructive? And there's this balance between sometimes you need to, some of my best training sessions. So there was one night that I didn't sleep well, and so I had 2 hours sleep, and I had to get up at 4:30 in the morning and do a 5-hour shift holding pads at work, really physical job. And then I went home and I had my lunch, and then I drove an hour and I got to the boxing gym for a 2-hour training session. And as soon as I pulled up, I crashed. I was tired. I was like, oh, I'm so exhausted. This was a bad idea to come. And if I wasn't already there, I wouldn't have got in the car and drove there. Went in and I sparred John, the bloody hammer fists, and I did the best sparring I've ever done in my life. And I thought, this is not normal. I've had 2 hours sleep. I feel terrible. How can I perform like that? So there are times when you have to push yourself to prove mentally. And there are times when, of course, training and getting punched in the face when you've had 2 hours sleep is not a great strategy. And it's finding and knowing the balance of that. And it's being able to...
You hear it first, go on 2 hours of sleep and you go in the best shape of your life. I'm going to close off with, do you like talking in a gym? So I know you have your Zoom session to be a motivational speaker and stuff. So do you like being in a gym more in terms of motivation, or do you like being a Zoom and then I guess out of the pandemic in a classroom kind of setting to motivate?
I like speaking to... I've kind of moved into the mind space more than the gym space. You know, I love speaking to people that aren't gym people about how it all makes up our mind, like how we're all interlinked, the physical and the mental and the emotional. And yeah, I love speaking to, I guess, corporates and people that aren't in that space, you know, because it's also a bit of a speaking to a boxer, you know, it's that kind of shock of what's this chick gonna do? And then you can talk about, you know, I spent half of my career working in corporate, working in offices and working in business sales, and to be able to integrate those two, the physical and the mental, and performance in the boxing ring and performance in sales and performance in marketing. I love that. Like, I love finding where it all connects, the intersection.
I feel like a gym would be a better motivator because a gym you can kind of get more results. So like, let's say you're given a task to do 10 sit-ups and you're only doing 8. Like, you can say, hey, do 8 more or whatever. And but like when you're in a business setting and you say, all you're using are words really, and it's not really, I mean, to me, words aren't like good enough in a way, because kind of like words are not good enough because it doesn't give any, because it kind of applies to everyone differently. So like someone hard work is different than someone else's hard work. So, you know, some can work 10 hours a day and some can only work 8 hours a day. But I just feel like a gym is more like you're giving them a bar to reach and say, give me 10, and you can only give me 8, but you can give me 2 more and go. But when you're in a office place, it's not like, how do you give motivation to an office based people when the vibe is totally different?
And this is the challenge, and that's exactly the part that I love. I recently held a workshop on self-sabotage, and I did a pre-workshop questionnaire. I wanted to get an understanding of who was coming, why they signed up, what their problems were, and what they wanted to get out of the workshop. And so many of the answers that came in were people that they've had life coaches, they've had business coaches, they've done programs, they've done seminars, they've done talks, they've done all of the things. I was like, oh, what am I going to... If you've been to Tony Robbins, if you've been to, you know, all of the places, what am I going to bring to the table? It's finding a new way to articulate. And then the feedback I got was amazing. And you go, it's not because I have the answers, but it's because I can bring a different angle to the conversation. People are all looking for the answer, but there's not the answer. There's an answer for you. Like,
yeah, I think the point I was trying to make is that when you're in a gym, there's a measurable goal you can attain. But when you're doing life, there's nothing really measurable. Like, I guess you can be measurable saying like, hey, I want to make $100,000 a year. That's measurable. Getting verified on Instagram, that's almost a measurable. I mean, it's hard to get it because there's no like, I need 100,000 followers and I get verified. Verified is kind of like, there are people that get verified and they have 2,000 followers. Yeah. Like, explain that. Yeah. And then there are people that have 3 million followers and they're not verified either. So verified is not really great, but like great metric. But like making $100,000, that's easy to measure like that. Just look at your taxes. That'll say how much you're making, or, you know, like let's say I want to buy a house by the age of 35. That's measurable. Like, I gotta turn 35 in 5 years, you know. How much money do you have to make to get a house? It's measurable. But like in life in itself, it's not measurable though. Like, you know, like someone be like, hey, I want to be happy. Like, how do you measure happiness? You know, everyone happiness is different. my happiness is different. Like I mentioned before, I can't go to the gym, and like for you, that's like your saving grace almost to help you
Yeah.
with your traumas and get your head on straight and become a badass person. Like I didn't have that. I guess to me it's a luck. I don't know if it's a luxury but I don't have that. I
Yeah.
can't eat foods. I can't comfort myself with that. So that's hard. It's like, how do I find happiness for myself? You got to find it my own way. And like, I guess like
Yes.
one of the things is one of the things like going to a strip club. That makes me happy. You know, like I mean, it's like everyone's different, but like that makes me happy. Like, I'll if anyone will take me, I'll go right away. But yeah, like everyone had like you can't measure happiness. Like
Yeah.
there are people that have millions of dollars and a family and they're not happy.
Yep.
Like you can. I don't like to be in a situation like I know what I do that makes me good and such, like acceptance and such. But like I think sometimes the simple truth is too much for them to handle. So you have to like create all these complicated things, but it's kind of like there's no one answer. Like to me, it's just acceptance. What do I like? I like women, I guess, and booties, but like all men are like that. But like, what makes you happy? Like if I was in a relationship, that would make me really happy and such. Or would make me really happy if I could get surgery and walk again. Man, I'll be happy to the day I die. Like that's amazing. And then I kind of thought about it. I think what makes people happy is that you have to be uncomfortable for a long time for you to appreciate yourself. So like they say like if you see a rich person and they're not happy, they're probably lived such a comfortable life that their norm is being rich all the time. But like if they grew up poor, like living on the streets, and then they became rich, they'd be so much happier because they know what it was before. So I think the big thing to me that no one really wants to do voluntarily is you have to go through shit because then you got to lower your bar of happiness. Because like to me, like when I was on bed rest for 2 years, the biggest happiness was me to taking a shower. Okay, that was just a privilege for me. Just have the like I love taking showers and I just couldn't do it for a long time. It was just an amazing experience. And there's people that take 2 showers a day just because I was able to take one for 6 months, a year, 2 years. So like that's the thing. People have to just go through shit and then they'll find happiness. But you can't just like you have to make your life go downhill somehow. As terrible as that sounds, like and you'll get better. Like I guess one thing people could do is go to boxing. You're kind of putting yourself down. Like you're getting punched and not feeling good afterwards, but it helps. It helps in the long run in a way. It's kind of it's a very weird human thought process that no one wants to put themselves in a bad situation because why would they choose that when they rather have a straight line versus a roller coaster, like I'm forced to deal with what I have. So I'm forced to deal with it and I can't do anything about it. So, like I think if I was a regular person, I wouldn't want to make myself bad situation because why? I don't want to be poor. I want to be rich all day. So, but that's the reality is that you have to go through shit. And then you'll find happiness because if you don't go through shit, you're just never gonna be able to find it, unfortunately. But you gotta lower the bar of your happiness somehow, and so you just gotta go through shit for a long time. Then when you take that shower, you'll be really happy about that shower.
Yeah. I mean, we just take it for granted, don't we?
Exactly. That's what happens. So before I take the mic away from you, is there anything you want to say, promote, any inspirational words?
Oh, just keep rolling with the punches, guys. That's it. Like it's been a pleasure speaking to you and learning about you. I think you're awesome and thank you. It's been a privilege.
Yeah, you're a total badass too from the whole conversation, and you got to work on your podcast game. I want to thank Tiffanee for listening, not for listening, but for being here in the podcast all the way from Australia. Thanks everyone for listening and watching, and I'll see everyone next time. Bye.